All right, so 3, 2, 1, we're live.
Good evening, everybody. I am RaikouRider, and tonight I will be showcasing a very, very special randomizer. This one being of SuperMetroid. It's a game that needs no introduction, but I'll just go ahead and get this started real quick. And we will begin in 3, 2, 1, go. So Super Metroid is a game that really needs no introduction, but I'm a little bit newer of a runner to this game, and I kinda don't know where I'm going, so the first thing I want to do is go get the map out of criteria so that I can get some idea of where I need to go. And suddenly, Zelda. So this randomizer, created by Total, is a combination of Link to the Past and Super Metroid it's in one image. So both of the games are combined together into one. The items from both games are shuffled together between games, and the goal is to beat both Ganon and Mother Brain. So what we're gonna do, first of all, is we're gonna get a little bit of money by taking advantage of a programming error to get us into a room that doesn't exist. And when A Link to the Past determines that you are going someplace that doesn't exist, it will send you to this room called the Chris Houlihan room. It's just an error handling room. But more importantly, this room has 225 rupees in it, which is very important for the early game routing, since we're likely going to need some explosives to get started. And conveniently, when you exit the Houlihan room, it takes you to Link's house, where there's going to be a treasure chest. So in the early game, there are only 2 items available in Super Metroid without the Morph Ball, so we won't be typically doing too much in that game without Morph Ball. So we're going to be checking a lot of Link to the Past to try to find some items that will open up our way to perhaps where the seed wants us to go. I should also check my map, because all of the crystals and pendants for each dungeon are shuffled as well. So instead of all 3 pendants being in the light world, as in the vanilla game, some of those may get shuffled to the dark world, so you may not need to complete certain dungeons. And as you can see, we're already finding Super Metroid items in Link to the Past. No explosives yet, unfortunately. So the reason why I skipped the Sanctuary chest at the first time I was here is just in case that has the flippers, because the setup that I used to get into the Chris Houlihan room to get early money is contingent on you not having the flippers. Sure, it's a 1 in 316 chance that the flippers will actually be there, because there are 316 item locations in the game, but it's not something that I would like to risk. So I'm going up to the Lumberjack Cave right now. Now, the Lumberjack Cave is an important location to get out of the way, because the way you get to this location is you need the Pegasus boots, and you need to climb Aghanim's tower and kill the wizard up there. And that's something that's very time-consuming, and you don't want to do it unless you absolutely have to. It's about a 4.5-minute trip. So what do we have? We have 50 bucks, nothing I care about. Now, rupees are very important early in the game, because you need to spend 100 rupees to buy the bottle item in Kakariko Village. You usually need to buy bombs from the shop, and you need to keep King Zora in mind as well. King Zora normally sells you the flippers in Vanilla Link to the Past, but that item can be anything, and if it's progression, you may need to farm rupees somewhere. Luckily, I know of great places you can do that if need be. Hopefully it won't come to that. Oh, that's a moon pearl. That's a very nice thing to find. So there are 2 Holy Grail round objects in the combo randomizer. One of them being the Morph Ball, the other one being the Moon Pearl. Those 2 items gate more locations than any other items in the combo randomizer. Unfortunately, I have not seen any explosives yet, so I will need to make a detour down to the shop first. Oh, that's convenient. Those are probably the best pack of bombs I will ever purchase from the bottle vendor. I was going to need to go all the way down to the south end of town to be able to open up all the spots that require bombs, but I don't need to do that anymore. The reason why we go to Kakariko Village so early is because there are 13 locations we can check here, and generally what you find here will determine where you need to go in the early game. So nothing in Blind's Hut, unfortunately, but it is still early. What we're really looking for in the early game to really open things up are some gloves, a sword, a fire source, hookshot bow, and of course Morph Ball. Oh, that's Canis Maria. That's a pretty nice thing to find, because that can be a real bear to track down earlier, or later in the game, if it's one of the last items you need, because there aren't a whole lot of restrictions that are going to be... Oh, that's Morph Ball. But I'm not going to head to Super Metroid quite yet, because I don't have any usable bombs. And by that I mean usable Super Metroid bombs. There's a lot of wrong kind of bombs jokes in Combo Randomizer. Aw, I didn't get the chicken all the way through the wall. That's just something fun that we do. Oh, that's a fire rod. Remember what I was just saying, that we needed a fire source? Well, we found one. But now I'm gonna go get some explosives, then probably finish up the Kakariko loop and head down to South Shore. So for those of you unfamiliar with just Randomizer in general, what a randomizer does is it takes elements of a game that you know and love and randomly rearranges them in a way that the game is still completable to create a new experience every time you play the game. And if any of you have questions in chat about the Combo Randomizer, or Link to the Past and Super Metroid in general, I'll try to answer them the best I can. What do we have in the library? Nothing I care about. In order to get the item that's in the library, you need the Pegasus boots. And that's usually an item that gets checked pretty quickly, so depending on what's up there, you may need to route around that location. So now I could go straight to Super Metroid, but it's better just to get all these dense locations in Link to the Past done. I could even consider going to Escape now, but I personally don't like checking the castle before I have a glove. Sometimes, of course, your glove can end up in there. But the reason why I don't like to check it without a glove is because the randomizer's logic may not expect you to have access to all of those locations. And what we mean by the logic is the algorithm that is used to place all of the items in the game to make sure that all of the locations are either accessible or the only thing that is locked, the only item that is locked behind itself is a key that leads to nothing else, which we'll get into when we get to the dungeons. I'll take powder. A lot of people consider magic powder as the best safety item in Link to the Past, and I would definitely agree with them. There are enemies that will appear in the dungeons that we will be able to turn into fairies, which restores 7 hearts. And in a lot of those later dungeons, usually about Thieves' Town and later, in terms of dungeon order of the vanilla game, that's usually about when you would expect to see a lot of them, and you can be pretty much invincible. There, finally the mini Moldorms cooperated. This is usually one of the first checks you see people do, because you want to go for the item-dense locations first. Oh, hey, flippers. Flippers are not a bad thing to find at this point, although this is kind of pointing towards King Zora having something. I am 1 300 rupee away from getting Zora Cash, though. So maybe I can luck out and get one, but with the extra 100 items from Super Metroid in the item pool, cash tends to be a bit more tight than in standalone Link to the Past Randomizer. I was going to talk about the fake flipper glitch, but we got real flippers, so there's no point to doing it. And I don't like these crabs either. These crabs will kill me if I touch them, because I only have 2 hearts, and for whatever reason, these crabs do way too much damage. If you haven't died to one of these crabs playing ALTTPR, then you either haven't been playing enough or you're a liar. So there's definitely a case to be made to avoid going up to the King Zora area, but given that all of these locations in the Lake Hylian Zora area are not only just available, but they're also in logic, I still think it's a good case to go up even if we don't have the money quite yet. But after this, 1 pack of power bombs is kind of annoying for Super Metroid as well. Because if you don't have regular bombs and you only have 1 power bomb pack, if you're not paying attention, it can be very easy to soft lock when we go back to Super Metroid. So I'm really fishing for another power bomb pack before I head up there. Oh, I missed the reverse fake flipper pixel. There's a specific pixel that you would need to stand on to be able to jump straight into the transition off the bridge, which is very important if you come down here without the flippers. And the fake flipper glitch it's used in a similar manner, the exact same location, I believe, as well, to where it's used in the vanilla Link to the Past speedrun. I'll take that. That is half magic. Half magic is an amazing safety item as well. Now, what half magic does is it actually halves your magic consumption, so it gives you twice as much magic. Spazer. Spazer's not the best beam to find, but it's a nice beam to find early until you find Plasma, if we ever find Plasma. Unfortunately, I will need to backtrack here after I get money for King Zora, because we do not have 500 rupees, and hopefully he just has nothing and we can ignore him, but we're probably going to eventually come back here. I still think Spazer is absolutely worth coming here for, though. So let's, with this Cane of Samaria, I think I'm actually gonna go do the Front of Escape. I normally don't like this play this early, and it can be a little bit annoying to do with the Cane of Samaria as well instead of a sword. Oh yeah, if you play this yourself, get used to not having a sword. It can take a very long time before you find your first sword, and it's entirely possible that all 4 swords wind up in Super Metroid. And now that we're going down to the escape, I'll explain the reason why I don't like coming down to escape without access to the back. Sometimes the extra small key can wind up in the back. Guard, please. Kana Samaria combat can be really tricky, but we got it. There's a couple more guards we're gonna have to kill this way. Well, just one. We might have to kill another one this way if he gets in our way. So the reason why I don't like coming here is if the key is in the back. If the extra key in the escape is actually in the back of the sewers, then the treasure chest that is in Zelda's holding cell is actually not obtainable by the game's logic. The reason why that is because the game assumes that you use your keys in the most inefficient way possible, so that you don't experience any kind of soft lock. So this next chest, if there is progression in this treasure chest, then that means that we are not expected to have this item yet. And this location by the item logic, would require a glove. Or potentially the lamp. And it does not. So front of escape is a blank. Do I want to go into Eastern Palace? Yeah, let's take a trip into Eastern Palace real quick. Eastern Palace is one of those tricky locations because you're very, very likely to need to enter it twice if it's a crystal. That's what we like to call a double dip, where you need to go into a dungeon to obtain all the items from it, but you can't actually finish the dungeon because you don't have the items necessary to complete the dungeon. This is very common in some Dark World dungeons that have a lot of items, but the boss requires a specific item to defeat. So, for instance, I believe all but the boss of Palace of Darkness can be cleared without the hammer, but the hammer is required specifically for the boss. And it is even possible that the logic of the seed intends for you to do a double dip, and those are never fun. I would like a permanent weapon besides the Cane of Samaria, please. But this is the last location I'm going to check. You also have to bear in mind that I'm still trying to locate another pack of power bombs, because routing the early game of Super Metroid with only 5 power bombs is not fun. I also would not mind finding regular Morph Ball bombs, although I don't want to find them too early, just because with normal logic, one of the tricks that is expected of you is the infinite bomb jump, which hopefully you won't have to see because it's a very slow way to travel and it's very easy to mess up. If anybody who has played Super Metroid before and tried to do infinite bomb jumps, it's not the easiest thing. You might also notice that the Dark World dungeon theme is playing despite that we're in a Light World dungeon. VTorp's Link to the Past randomizer will remind you whether you are in a Light World or a Crystal or a Pendant dungeon by the music that plays. And that item that we just picked up in the Vanilla Compass chest is the X-Ray Scope. The X-Ray Scope is not terribly useful. Combined with a couple of other items, it can save a lot of time on a couple of specific bosses. But that's about all it's useful for. Unfortunately, we do need to use the pots to kill the Stalfos. Hey, a chest turn. So a chest turn is a one-frame swag trick where you can get Link to face away from a treasure chest that he's going to open, because you can actually move Link for one frame after opening the treasure chest. So now this next room, now we do not have a lantern. And one thing that the Link to the Past side of the logic will never require you to do is do a navigation through dark rooms. Normally, to be able to progress in this room, you would need the lantern. I currently do not have the lantern, so I cannot see what I'm doing. Luckily, I have all of these rooms memorized. So any item that I find past this room will be considered out of logic. Think of it like a sequence break in any other game that has an item sequence, like say Super Metroid. If any of you are familiar with the Mach Ball to get super missiles early, it's very similar to that. And unfortunately, Eastern was a bust, so I am going to do a hard reset here to go back to Super Metroid. And with that Morph Ball, there is a lot open. Now, on the Super Metroid side, one nice thing that was implemented in the most recent version was the max ammo counters that you see. This was not in vanilla. In vanilla, the only way to find out what your max ammo count was to basically just go to your ship. Oh, hi! That's a mirror. Mirror is one of those items that can be very difficult to track down because there's not a lot of restrictions on where it can be, and it opens up a lot of locations in A Link to the Past. Doesn't do anything for us right now, but once we get Dark World access, that's going to open up a lot for us. For those of you not familiar with Link to the Past, what the mirror does is it lets us return from the Dark World to the Light World. So until we have access to the Dark World, it doesn't do a lot for us. Oh, hi, that's a hammer too. So Criteria just loaded. So with that hammer, we are now a lift upgrade away from getting access to the Dark World. Starting to get a little worried about the power bomb count, though. Actually, you know what? This power bomb count is a little too worrisome. I think I'm gonna run back to my ship and fill up. This is the biggest reason why I don't like coming to Super Metroid with only one power bomb tank. When you don't have Morph Ball bombs, and of course in the vanilla game, the Morph Ball bombs are one of the first items you get, managing ammo is so difficult. In the vanilla game and in the randomizer as well. So until we find a reason to go back to Link to the Past, we're going to stay in Super Metroid for a while. And the way you transition between games is there are 4 specific points in each game that are linked to specific places in the other game. So for instance, the Criteria map station that I went to, that will take you to the fortune teller's hut around Lake Hylia in Link to the Past. think I'm gonna go check the back gauntlet too. This'll let me fill up on power bombs as well. Okay, nothing back there I care about. Those items, logically speaking, require a way to fly, which in this case is either Morph Ball Bombs, Space Jump, or Speed Booster, and 2 packs of Power Bombs. So coming down to a green Brinstar, you're going to see me perform another minor glitch to be able to get a couple of locations out of sequence. Not that one. That's not the one I want to go in. I am going to take a quick save because I only have 1 pack of Power Bombs, and you can go through a lot of Power Bombs trying to do this. So those of you familiar with the vanilla speedrun, we're going to be doing the same trick that's used to get early super missiles, and this will allow us to get to 4 locations out of logic. So what I did there is called a mock ball. It's one of the easier Super Metroid speedrun techs. Nothing important out of logic so far, but a couple very nice safeties in the bug net. When combined with the powder, will be able to let us catch fairies in bottles almost at will. And the blue mail, which increases our defense by 25% in Link to the Past.
One, two, three, four.